Alright, hello and welcome back to the channel. And I recently just finished Resident Evil 9 Requiem, which was incredible. And I decided, you know what, I want to do a tier list on all the Resident Evil games. I've played almost all of them, but we're going to go through every single mainline game and side game that we have on here. And I'm going to rank them, I'm going to talk a little bit about them, and we're just going to have fun with it. And again, this is all 100% my opinion, so keep that in mind. Alright. Resident Evil, the original, the OG, the 1995 PlayStation game. This is a tough one because this is the game that started it all. Not to say that there aren't issues with it, because there are. Obviously, it doesn't really hold up anymore, graphic wise, or sound wise, or gameplay wise. But it is the game that started it all, and it's a fun game, and it's honestly the first one is incredible. Only because of the game that comes next. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna give this A tier because it is the game that started the series, and I can't give it S tier, but I will give it A tier. I really enjoy the original Resident Evil. It's a lot of fun to play, and it was the third Resident Evil game I ever played, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good challenge when I was younger, and at the time the graphics weren't bad, so I'll give it A tier. It doesn't hold up as much today, but I mean I think A tier for sure. Now the next one, the remake, the Resident Evil remake is S tier. There's no question there. Um, Up until Resident Evil 9 came out, this was my undisputed favorite game in the series. It's currently tied between those two, but Resident Evil remake, the remake was incredible. It's the best, in my opinion, best Resident Evil game. The graphics are incredible. They still hold up today. The HD remaster looks incredible. It's a lot of fun to play. It holds true to the original as far as like most of the story and stuff like that, but they enhanced on it in a lot of positive ways. And honestly, I don't have really anything really bad to say about the remake. It's an incredible game, and honestly, it's yeah. There's not much else to say. It's S tier. The original Resident Evil 2. This is a tough one because this is the second Resident Evil game that I ever played, and I really love this game. I got to the point where I was speedrunning the game in like an hour and a half, finishing it with an S ranking, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the four different scenarios and how they change things up depending on what character you're playing as. I thought that was really well done, and all in, it was just an amazing game. This is an easy, yeah, S tier. It's an easy S tier. Resident Evil 2 is. It was my favorite game before the remake. Let's put it to you like, let me put it that way. So before the remake, Resident Evil 2 was my favorite. The Resident Evil 2 remake, this is an obvious S tier as well. It's going to go above the original just slightly. But Resident Evil 2 Remake, they took everything that was great about Resident Evil 2 and just made it better. Better graphics, better gameplay, better atmosphere. It's darker, it's scarier, it's more immersive. It's a great game. I wish they would have done more with the split character system where like things were more different. Like I don't like that you kind of do some of the same things in an A scenario that you do a B scenario. That kind of eliminates the point of the A and B scenarios. They could have done that a little bit better, but all in, this game is incredible, and I can't say bad things about it. It still holds up. It's a lot of fun to play, and I yeah. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. This was the first Resident Evil game I ever played when my parents got me my PlayStation for the first time in 1999. They also purchased this game for me with it, so this was the first game I ever owned for PlayStation. This is the first game I ever played on it in Resident Evil series, and it's incredible. It's A tier. I'm gonna put it above the first game for me personally, but it is definitely A tier. It's not doesn't quite hit S tier. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to play. Um, and yeah, it honestly still holds up. I'll still go back every now and then. I still own the game on disc. I'll still throw it in my PS2 that I have around here somewhere every now and then and go back and play it if I want to have a good time. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great game. And yeah, A tier. All right, this one is tough. The Resident Evil 3 make. I loved this game. I know a lot of people didn't like it because of how short it was and how like they eliminated certain aspects of it, which I agree was bad. But I still really love the game. It's a lot of fun. I love playing as Jill. I love, the areas that you're in. The streets of Raccoon City is great. I'm gonna have to put it in B tier just because it feels like they cut way too much out of it. If it had all the stuff back in it that it should be in it, this would probably be S tier. But because they cut so much out of it and changed so much, I have to put it B tier. That being said, I still really love it. It's still a really fun game to play, and I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of Resident Evil 2 Remake. Play this one; it's great. Resident Evil Code Veronica. This might surprise people because this is a game that I feel like a lot of people don't like, but um, I am putting it S tier. It's going to go right below Resident Evil 2. It's a lower end of S tier, but it's S tier. This game is a masterpiece. It is incredible. The only bad thing about it is how they handled some of the character switches when you switch between characters later in the game. That's, I think, the only negative I can say about it. It is a return to form. It's a Resident Evil game that actually is a lot of fun to play. It's I would say it's the last one that they made of this era before they got into the action-oriented games of like 4 and everything. Actually, no, I think 0 came after that. But it's yeah, this one was incredible for the way it played. Um, it's easy S tier for me. This game's a masterpiece. This game needs a remake. This one absolutely needs a remake. I heard rumors that it's happening. If it's happening, that's incredible. It needs it. This game absolutely deserves a remake. Resident Evil 0. This is a tough one. So I had the original GameCube version of this, and it was a lot of fun to play. Oh, that being said, I also played Resident Evil Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. That was the original version I had of it. Was the Dreamcast version, which was great. Um, and yeah, sorry. Anyway, back to Resident Evil 0. Resident Evil 0, I had the original GameCube version, and I loved it. I have the remake, the HD remake for Xbox now. It's great. I am hesitant to put it up high though. I don't like the way they handle the inventory system where you have to like drop items and leave them places and all that. I don't like that at all. I like the character swapping. I think that was cool, but I think that they could have done it a little bit better, and I think they went a little crazy on how they handled Rebecca. So like Rebecca in the remake was like a fresh character who had never seemed like she'd never been through anything like this before. And now, but we find out that there's a prequel where she was the main character and she defeated all these tough enemies and stuff like that. But then she goes to the mansion and is all of a sudden, a rookie again. So I didn't like that. That being said, this game is great. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I I like it, and for me, it's B tier. A lot of people I know don't like it, so it'll probably be lower for a lot of people. But it's B tier for me. All right, Resident Evil 4, the OG Resident Evil 4. I played this the first time, the original GameCube version, and it is incredible. The game is a masterpiece. It's S tier. I still put it under the remake personally, but it is an S tier game for sure. It's probably one of the best Resident Evil games they ever did. It takes away from the horror element a lot of it and goes more action oriented, but it worked for this game the way they handled it, and I think it was great. I mean, there's very little they could have done to make Resident Evil 4 better. So yeah, easy S tier. Now this is a tough one. The Resident Evil 4 remake. I thought the Resident Evil 4 remake was incredible. I really like how well they did it. I don't think it's as good as the original, and for that reason, it's going to go A tier. It's going to go at the top end of A tier. Um, yeah, but it's definitely going to go A tier. This was actually my first time playing a Resident Evil game on a PlayStation in a long time. I had it on PS5, um, and the last game I played on PlayStation, I think before that, might have been Code Veronica or one of the Outbreaks. I know I played them on Xbox on PlayStation as well, but yeah, I mean it's been a long time since I played a Resident Evil game on a PlayStation, and this one I got specifically because I wanted to play it on the PlayStation, and I loved it. It was great. Again, I think the original was better in some aspects, but I think this one was incredible. So it's gonna go high A tier. All right, Resident Evil 5. I hate this game. I don't hate it. I don't hate it like I hate one that's a couple that are coming up. But I am not a fan of Resident Evil 5 at all. I like I like the action aspect they did in Resident Evil 4, and I didn't like it as much in 5. I didn't like having two characters was cool. I liked that being able to switch between the characters, but I thought it was too actiony and not Resident Evil-y enough. It was going too much on the action-oriented side of it, and I didn't enjoy that as much. I enjoyed it in 4, but I think in 5, I don't think they hit the mark. So this is going to be probably decisive, and I might get a lot of flack for this, but C tier. It's not quite D tier. It's definitely better than some of the worst games on the list. But for me, it is not a game that I ever really care about going back and replaying. I mean, if they remake it, I might go. I'll play it. But realistically, like I have no desire to really ever go back and play Resident Evil 5 again, unless I decide to like go on a binge where I just play all of them in order. Then maybe I'll do that. But unless short of that, I really have no desire to ever really play Resident Evil 5 again. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game. It was great. I had it on the Xbox. It was a lot of fun, and it was like a lot of fun action. It was a good action game. I just don't like it as a Resident Evil game. It's not my favorite. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing the game, but I don't. If this game with that what not Resident Evil with a different title would be great, but with the fact that it's a Resident Evil game, it's lower on the list. Resident Evil Revelations. This game was a lot of fun. I first played it when it first came out on the 3DS, which was a lot of fun playing it on the 3DS. It was really cool. I had headphones in the entire time, so like it was really immersive. It's a great game. I'm gonna put it in B tier, just because it was great. But again, it was kind of the issues I had with 5, where it was a lot of action oriented, which it kind of is. But at the same time, you know, where you are in the game and the atmosphere that you're in, it is kind of more horror element. So it's more true to form to a Resident Evil game than 5 was, but it's still on the lower end for me. So it's going to be not a lower end, but a lower end of B tier for me. So it's still a good game, but not one that I thought was incredible. Resident Evil 6, D tier. I absolutely hated this game. I got it when it first came out and I was excited, and when I played it, I was like, this is bad. They did everything that they did bad in Resident Evil 5 and then took it to Resident Evil 6 and said, I know people didn't like it as much, but hey, we're going to do it again and see if that changes things. I mean, the Leon portion of the story was okay. I didn't like the Chris portion at all. The Ada stuff was not as good either, in my opinion. And then the Sherry part was good. That's probably my second favorite next to the Leon part, but still not great. Like I don't think it's a good game. And again, it's same as Resident Evil 6. Like it's not one I ever want to go back and play again. I don't even own it anymore. Like 5, I own a digital copy for Xbox, so if I wanted to play that right now, I could. 6, I had a physical copy. I played the physical copy. I finished the game, and then I went to GameStop and I traded it in because I hated it and I never wanted to play it again. So I don't even own a digital copy of this or a physical copy of this, and I probably never will. I have no interest in ever playing this again. It was just not a good game. It's the I don't know if it's the worst Resident Evil game overall. There's a couple coming up that might be worse, but it's pretty bad. Definitely one of the worst. Revelations 2, I'm torn on. I liked the game. I liked the Claire portion of the game. I thought that was a true to form Resident Evil style game, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the horror element in that portion. That was great. I did not enjoy the Barry portion as much, which is why this is going to get a lower ranking from me than I originally thought. It's going to go B tier. If it was just the Claire portion, it would probably be A tier. But the Claire and Barry portion makes it B tier. I'm gonna put it in a higher end, so I'm gonna put it right behind Resident Evil 3 in B tier because it's a good game, and the Claire portion of the game is great. I just am not a fan of the Barry portion. So that being said, I'm gonna put it right here. Um, yeah, Resident Evil 7. This is S tier. I don't think that is surprising anybody. It's going to go in the mid range of S tier. This is a perfect return to form for the series after the disaster that was 6, and in my opinion, the semi-disaster that was 5. This game is more horror elemented. It's a return to form. It's incredible. It's a nerve-wracking game to play the first couple times you do it. It's a lot of fun. It's actually things decisions matter. Things that you do you're getting it's just it's a great game. It's a lot of fun to play. It's when I played it for the first time was a couple years after it came out because Resident Evil 6 kind of soured me on the series. So I played Resident Evil 2 a couple years later, or Resident Evil 7 rather a couple years later, and I was like, holy crap! I wish I'd played this sooner because it's absolutely incredible. And yeah, it is S tier for sure. It brought the series back from the dead, or pretty close to the dead, and it definitely deserves S tier. Resident Evil 8 Village. This game was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of good replayability, in my opinion, and I really find a lot of fun with it. It's going to be A tier. Um, yeah, it's going to be A tier for me. It doesn't quite hit S tier because it's more actiony than 7 was, so I feel like that knocks it down from Resident Evil um, games for me. Because what I want out of a Resident Evil game is I want the horror element more and the survival horror element more than I want the actiony games. Like the actiony games are fun, at least some of them are, but like you got to have that horror element to it. Like Resident Evil 4 remake, it's dark, it has that horror element to it. Same thing with the original Resident Evil 4. Same thing with Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 is a little more action oriented than I would say 2 and Code Veronica even and 1, but it's still horror elemented, and that's what's good about it. And but when you get to like 5 and 6, like the Leon portion of 6 is a little horror-ish, but like 5 and 6 aren't really horror; they're more action games. Like that's more action than anything else. I wouldn't consider them survival horror. So for me, that's why they end up down here. But Resident Evil Village is a good split between the two, similar to Resident Evil 4, where like it's more action oriented, but it's also horror, and I like that. Like the Benvenuto house is the absolute scariest part of, I would say, any Resident Evil game up until 9. I would say that alone is the scariest portion of any Resident Evil game. So that's definitely puts it up there, and I would say it's not as good as the 4 remake, but it's definitely a high end of A tier. Resident Evil Requiem. I just finished this game for the first time a couple days ago, and it's incredible. It is S tier. It is absolutely S tier. It is the high end of S tier. It is currently tied with the remake for my favorite Resident Evil game. I would say it's better than 4. It's better than the 2 make. It's better than 7 for sure. It is one of the best, if not the best, Resident Evil game they've ever made. The Grace portion of the game is my favorite. Like I loved playing as Grace, and the horror elements were incredible. The action portions as Leon were good. The later portions, the action part as Leon, were kind of horror elements as well, which is great. This game is an absolute masterpiece, and I cannot say anything negative about it. It is incredible, and if you haven't played it, play it. And the fact that people are refunding it on Steam and leaving it reviews for being too scary, for me, just goes to show you how good this game is. It is absolutely incredible. All right, now we're getting into the spin-offs. Excuse me. All right, so now we're getting into the spin-off games. I've played most of these. I'm just going to go ahead and get the ones out of the way that I have never played. I have never played Resistance or Reverse. They're newer games that came out. I think they're like what they're like online stuff. I never really had an interest in those, so I never played those. Um, and I did play them. I did play that, so I didn't play it much, but I played it. So all right, everything else we'll leave on the same. I'm not going to go in order for these though, because I want to knock out. There's a couple I want to talk about that are higher on the list, so I'm going to go ahead and start down here. Umbrella Corps is D tier. Um, this is probably the worst Resident Evil game. I would say it's worse than 6. You can't even play it anymore. It's online only. I did try it when it first came out, and I hated it. I got a got a refund for it because I hated it. It wasn't very good. It was just an online like multiplayer game, and it's just not. I mean, it's cool. There's other games on the list that did that better. Um, so there's definitely a market for it, but this game was awful. Operation Raccoon City. Operation Raccoon City was actually a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time with this game because it took you back. Ooh, excuse me, took you back to like some of the areas from the original Resident Evil games that were remade, like the RPD and like certain like areas like that are in older games that you got to explore a little bit. So I thought Operation Raccoon City was great. I'm gonna put it in C tier right above Resident Evil 5. It's not a good Resident Evil game because it's an action like squad-based shooter, but it's still a fun game, and it's a fun game like for a game set like an action game set in the Resident Evil universe. This is actually a pretty good one. Mercenaries 3D. This was, I think they've come out for other consoles, but I think I have this originally for the 3DS, and it's basically just the Mercenaries mode from Resident Evil 4, just by itself, where you can play as some newer characters. It's cool. The Mercenaries games are cool, but like not as a main game, right? Like I like the Mercenaries to be able to be played as like a side game after I've beaten a game to unlock rewards for the main game. So like this is a fun thing, but it's gonna go C tier because it is fun, but it's not really necessary. Like if they had never made this game, I don't think we'd really be any worse off. All right, what is this? Dark Side Chronicles. The Dark Side Chronicles and the Umbrella Chronicles were like the on-rail shooter games. I didn't like those that much at all. Um, I had them both for the Wii, and that might have been why I didn't like them because they weren't really good for that. They're both gonna go. I'm gonna put them both in the higher end of D tier, just because, and I'm lumping them together because I have the same things to say about both of them. They're cool, but like I'm not a fan of rail shooter games, and this was basically turned the events of what is it, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Code Veronica. And then there's some unique stories in there too, if I remember correctly. So that was cool. But there's some cool parts of them, like some of them are neat. But it's just not when I'm looking to play a Resident Evil game. That's not what I want, right? Like I want a story-driven game, not an on-rail shooter. So like they're bad games, but if they took some of the unique parts of it and made them into regular games, they'd be good. But as on-rail shooters, I'm just not a fan. All right. So these are the games I want to talk about the most. So I'm gonna jump back here. Resident Evil Survivor. Survivor was a very weird game. I remember I had this for the original PlayStation, and it was a really hard game to get. Like I don't remember there being a lot of them around. Like I don't remember really seeing many of them. And it was a weird game. It was a game set entirely in first person, and like it was designed. I know in Japan it was designed as a light gun shooter, but it wasn't. They didn't do that here in the U.S. When it was released. So it was weird. You had to use the controller, but you could move around, right? Like you weren't on rails. You actually got to move around freely and do different things like that. And for that reason, I think it's a little bit better. I don't know. It's not a good game, but it's not a horrible game. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Um, I'm gonna put it right above Mercenaries. It's a fun game to play once or twice. It kind of has some replayability with it because there's different paths you can take in different spots. So like there is some changes that you can have throughout the game if you want to play it multiple times and get different replayability, including some of the weapons. There's like certain areas where you go, you choose which direction you go, and that'll determine like what weapons you get, which is a neat little change. So I liked that. That was pretty cool. Survivor 2 Code Veronica. This is going to go in the never played category because as much as I tried, I never got to play this game. I remember trying to order it on eBay because it wasn't available in the US, so I tried to order it in a European version on eBay, and I actually was able to almost get one, but the problem is it's not playable on American consoles, so I would have had to also get a European console, and it was way more than I wanted to spend to get this game and a European console to be able to play it, so I never played it. That being said, from my understanding, it's just a on rails shooter version of Resident Evil Code Veronica, and I've heard mixed things about it. But yeah, it was unfortunately never released in the U.S. Resident Evil Dead Aim. This was a weird game. This was a PS2 game, and this was like a mix between Survivor and the classic Resident Evil game. So it was fun in like the dark atmospheric areas that you're in because you're running around the game in third person like you were in most of the classic games. And some of the areas you're in are pretty dark and pretty like can be a little on the spooky side. That being said, though, when you're in combat, it switches you to first person, and the combat is similar to Survivor. So like you're just like a first person. You don't see the gun. You just have like a reticule, and you have to aim and shoot, which is interesting. It was definitely a cool gameplay mechanic, but the game itself is really weird. Like the story is really out there. So like for me, it's gonna go C tier as well. I liked Survivor a little better than I did this story wise, so that's why it's going to go below Survivor. But it's definitely a C tier game. It's not great. Resident Evil Gaiden. This is a weird one. So this is a Game Boy Color game. I actually still have this. I don't know where. It's in my house somewhere, but I know I never got rid of it, so it's here somewhere. But it's a Game Boy Color game where you play as I think Barry and Leon, and you're on a boat, and it's really weird. The combat is super janky, and it's just weird, a really weird game. I'm going to put it in D tier just because what were you thinking with this? Like I don't know where they came. Like this game was just nutty. It was fun and it was crazy to play, but it was really weird and it was just like not a good game. Not a good game if I remember correctly. Okay, next we have the last two games on the list, Outbreak Files 1 and 2. So, Outbreak File 1 was amazing. The way you got to pick a different character, like a different regular survivor from like, what did you have? You had a cop, Kevin the cop, who started with his own pistol. You had Mark the security guard, who also started with his own pistol, so they both had a little bit of an edge. You had, I think, what was her name? Yuko or Yukio, the college student, had a backpack, so she had like more storage space. You had David was a plumber, so he could make makeshift weapons. Who else was in that? You had I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who works on the subway. I couldn't remember his name. He had like a coin that he could flip. And there was Alyssa, the reporter, who was awesome. And then the waitress, I can't remember her name either. And then I think there was a doctor. Wasn't there a doctor too? I don't remember what he did either. But there was just a bunch of different characters, and you could choose whichever you could play each scenario. There was I think 5 or 6 scenarios where you could play as, and each scenario is just like you trying to escape from different locations and escape Raccoon City. So like it's a lot of fun and it's really neat. And if you play online with other people, they can control the other characters. And if you're playing online and one of your characters gets bit, and you don't get healed in time, you'll actually turn into a zombie and be able to play as a zombie trying to, attack and infect the other members of your team. So like that was really cool. It's a lot of fun. The locations are pretty neat. I remember the bar is the first level. That one was a lot of fun. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. There's an umbrella facility. There's a mansion facility like umbrella level. I can't remember which game that's in. File 2 I know has the zoo. I think File 2 also has the RPD in it. The hospital is in one of them. There's a subway station in one of them. And it's just different areas, like different locations you go, and you just have to try to escape, and that's the whole point of it. And they're a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. I really hope they get remade at some point because I think that would be great. My only beef with them is they should have been one game because each of them has like 5 scenarios, and yeah, I mean, realistically, you have 5 scenarios, and you have 8 characters, so that's 40 different ways to play each scenario, or 40 different ways to play if you play all 5 scenarios with all 8 characters. So that's cool, but I feel like they could have all been one game. That's my big beef with it. That being said, the gameplay on these is great. The stories are a little weird, but all in, they're good games. I'm gonna put them in B tier. I'm gonna put them together in B tier because I think of them as one game because you're playing as the same 8 characters. All it is, File 2 is just different locations. And these were honestly two, like, PS2 didn't have a lot of good Resident Evil games that were made specifically for it. It had Code Veronica X, but that wasn't made for it. That was a game that they made for Dreamcast that they then ported to the PS2, which was fine. Then you had Resident Evil 4, which again was a GameCube game that they then eventually ported to the PS2, which was fine. But like Resident Evil PS2, all you really had were these two and Dead Aim that were made for the PS2 and only for the PS2, or not only, but originally for the PS2. That was it. That's all I can remember for them anyway. It was these two games plus Dead Aim. So like that being said, like these were great games for the PS2. There was a kind of a drought in PS2 for a while, so these were a nice return to form. They were classic style Resident Evil games with a little bit more of like a team esque kick to it, and they were great. They were really fun and a lot of you know replayability in both of them. But my only beef again is that if they were one game, if this was combined to one game, it would probably be A tier to be honest with you. But the fact that it's two games, I don't want to put either one of them in A tier because individually, I don't think either of them deserve A tier. If they were together, they probably would though. But yeah, but that's it. That is my list. Here's everything as is, and again, this is I don't. This is just something I decided to do because I just finished Resident Evil 9, and I was like, you know what? Let me just do a tier list because I kind of was thinking about like what are my favorite ones, where would I list them all, and this is where I would list them all. These are some of my favorite games of all time. The S tier games are must plays. If you have not played any of the games listed here in S tier, you should. Um, Same thing with A tier. If you haven't played any of the A tier games, I would highly recommend playing them as well. Everything below that is iffy. Although if you have an opportunity to play one of the outbreaks, do it because they are a lot of fun and a cool experience. But yeah, that's my list, guys. That's gonna about do it for this, and I'll catch you in the next one.